Manchester United have just drawn 2-2 with Sevilla in what was truly a game of two halves. The entire team, from Martial to Sabitzer to De Gea, looked silky smooth in the first half, and you had De Gea splitting the two center backs to act as the third center back, much like someone like Ederson or Alisson do at City and Liverpool, and you had Martial drifting all across the front line to create space in behind for Sabitzer and Sancho and Antony and so on. Both the stats and the eye test were pointing towards a comfortable victory for Man United in the first half, where we could have had 4 or 5 goals. But then came the second half, which started with Varane being taken off as a precaution and Maguire being brought on. And all of a sudden, United were not holding as high a line as before. Sevilla grew into the game because Navas came on the right-hand side and Ocampos went out to the left-hand side. And United just got progressively worse, both because we thought we had it in the bag and, in my opinion, because we took off Bruno Fernandes in the 62nd minute. I've been telling you guys for a while now, Bruno is our most important player. Casemiro definitely gives us that defensive security that our midfield has been missing for years. But Bruno completely dictates the play from this deeper role that he's been playing, or even when he's in the 10. Everything that our team does in possession goes through Bruno Fernandes, whether it's picking up the ball off the center backs to funnel it into midfield, or to receive it in midfield and find the pass before the assist, so like a switch of play to Antony or Sancho, or to get into the final third himself and play that assist. And we as a team just didn't know what to do on the ball without Bruno in those last 30 minutes. And maybe it is a questionable decision by Erik ten Hag to take off Bruno, because he's already going to be missing the next leg against Sevilla because of an accumulation of yellow cards. And I've seen everyone, including Mark Goldbridge, go crazy about Ten Hag substitutions in this game. But can you really blame Ten Hag here? On the one side, everyone, including me, criticizes Ten Hag for not rotating his team enough. And on the other side, we're going crazy about his substitutions in this game. When you have a 2-0 lead at home against one of the worst Sevilla sides in recent history, does Ten Hag not have the right to make some changes with 30 minutes left in the game? And he didn't bring on bloody pedestrians on the pitch. He brought on professional footballers in Eriksen, Weghorst and Elanga in the 62nd minute, who should be good enough to see out a game like this. There's definitely lots of talking points to get into for this game, but I'm going to try and keep the focus on the positives as much as possible because there were a lot of them. As always, please drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy, and don't forget to turn on all notifications to never miss out on content just like this. Like we normally do, we're going to start off by talking about Erik ten Hag's tactics. And as usual, United started in a 4-2-3-1 but played in a very attacking 2-3-1-4 that looked like this. In this shape, you had Martial and Sabitzer as the two strikers, swapping between the left and the right center back, with Sancho and Antony high and wide on the Sevilla fullbacks. Bruno was playing a little deeper in his free central role than he usually does, because he was getting involved a bit more in the first and second phases of build-up by moving all across this defensive midfield 3 that we usually have. And behind Bruno, you had Casemiro and the two fullbacks playing in the inside spaces like they normally do, and their main goal was to pull the opposing winger a bit narrow over here, so there's a bit more space on this side for their wingers to drop deep and pull their fullbacks out of position as well, which would create more room for Sabitzer to make runs into this channel and Martial to make more runs into this channel, and vice versa. And occasionally, when these guys were getting forward themselves, Bruno would occupy that position and play that deeper role as almost like a quarterback. And like we already discussed, United looked silky smooth in that first half, and I'd like to take a minute to explain exactly what happened and why Sabitzer got those 2 goals. We've seen enough of Sabitzer in a United shirt now to understand his strengths and his profile as a number 10, at least as it fits into this team. And I mentioned this after the Brentford game and the Everton game as well, so go check that out, links in the description below. His best attributes are his reading of the game, which allows him to get into good attacking areas like we've discussed, and his ability to shoot from in and around the box. This makes him a number 10 that thrives on making runs off of the front 3 into these channels between the 2 defenders or the defender and the fullback. But he also needs other players around him to make similar runs so that occasionally he's the one that gets into the position where he can shoot, and he needs players like Fernandes or Casemiro or the fullbacks to find him in those positions when he has that space. In this game, that player making those runs was Anthony Martial. He was absolutely running the show. He was making runs across that front line, sometimes running deep in central areas to allow Sabitzer to run in between the center backs, and other times he was dropping into wide areas to allow Sancho to run inside and make those runs at the edge of the box. And this made it an absolute nightmare for Sevilla to defend against, because when you have a striker dropping into different areas all across the pitch, it means different defenders have to keep switching onto him to stop him from getting too much space. And if they don't have perfect communication between these defenders, they will either vacate their positions to track Martial into those areas, which will leave more space for other United players to exploit, or they will not go with Martial and stay in their deep position, creating extra space in midfield for the likes of Bruno, Casemiro, or the fullbacks to exploit and pick their pass. And as always, we have some clips here to show you exactly what I'm talking about. We start with Martinez on the ball in our own half, and you can already see the movement from Martial from center to the left hand side. As Martinez fires the ball into Martial, we can see that he's occupying the area that's vacated by the Sevilla right back, who's gotten forward to stop Sancho in this area over here. And this actually forces Nianzou, who's the right center back of Sevilla, to vacate his position from here to follow Martial, which means there's space here for a United player to occupy. As Martial receives the ball, he attracts Montiel off of Sancho towards him in this space here, and because of poor communication, both Ocampos and Nianzou are at Martial over here. So this means that Malacia's run in beyond over here needs to be tracked by Fernando, who's vacated his CDM spot to track him, and all this means that there's now extra space for Bruno Fernandes in central midfield. And as we discussed already, in the absence of perfect communication by the Sevilla defense, Martial's movement leads to situations like these where there's 3 players on Martial and both Sancho and Bruno are left unmarked. As we play on, Martial pulls off an outrageous skill right there and passes it to Sancho inside, and Sancho now has 3 options in front of him to pick his pass. He can either play Malacia in behind through this channel here, or he can cut inside and pass it to Bruno or Casemiro and run in beyond himself. So Sancho drives inside and lays it off to Casemiro, and I want to pause here to talk through Sevilla's defensive shape right there. They started in a 4-2-3-1 with Gudelj and Fernando as their left and right CDMs respectively, so Gudelj should actually be in this position here in his left CDM spot, and Fernando should actually be in his right CDM spot trying to press Casemiro and win the ball back potentially. But because Martial's movement pulls Nianzou out of position right here, it has a domino effect on their defensive structure where Fernando, Gudelj, and everyone else is kind of out of position. So Casemiro has all the time in the world to lay it off to Bruno, and Bruno himself finds himself in tons of space purely, again, because of that movement by Martial. And guess what? 5 or 7 seconds ago, Martial was marked by 3 different Sevilla players, and now he finds himself in tons of space on the left wing. So Bruno can easily find Martial as well, who can potentially create something in this situation. So Bruno uses that space and time to play an amazing pass into Sabitzer that he converts to put us up 1-0. And I'm not going to show you that pass here, but what a world-class pass, man. He really drives it into Sabitzer's feet at the perfect angle so that he can take it away from the defender that's marking him. And all he has to do is wrap his left foot around the ball, and it goes past Bono into the net. This assist really reminds me of Bruno's assist for Fred against Barcelona in that second leg, where he absolutely fizzed the ball into Fred's right foot and almost forced Fred to take that first touch into space and put it past Ter Stegen into the net. Like I said in my last video, and again at the start of this video, Bruno is the glue that holds this team together, and without him, we're just a squad of 1 or 2 great players and many average players around them. But anyways, my overall point here is that Anthony Martial was absolutely running the show in the first half, and even though he doesn't get a goal or an assist for this goal, United does not go 1-0 up without his involvement. Next, let's look at Martial's contribution to the second goal in the 21st minute. Here we start with Martial carrying the ball forward on the counterattack after Sevilla lose the ball from a set piece, I believe. He has Sancho, Sabitzer, and Antony all in support on the counterattack, and he's already moved the ball from here to here. As we play along, Martial decides to cut back and make some space from the defenders as they are desperate to get back into position, as we can see here. As Martial waits for the Sevilla players to run past him, notice how 4 of the back 5 have kind of stopped moving in this area, and only Montiel is trying to get back here so he can stop a potential ball coming into Sancho. As we play along, the back 4 is now in position, and Fernando is trying to close the gap between him and Martial so he can potentially stop Martial from doing anything. But Sabitzer, who was a few yards behind these defenders a few seconds ago, never actually stops his run. He's still trying to get in behind the defense in this channel here, and Martial reads this run perfectly. And as a result, he plays the perfect weight of pass at the perfect time into the perfect area to find Sabitzer in acres of space, and all Sabitzer has to do is wrap his foot around it and curl it past Bono into the net. I'm honestly amazed by Martial's combination of game intelligence and technical abilities, because there aren't that many players in the in world football that can do what he can from center forward. CR7, Haaland, Osimhen couldn't pull off what Martial just did for those 2 goals. Harry Kane has the vision and the hold-up play, and he's probably better at those 2 things than Martial is, but he is considerably slower than Martial. So there's not that many players with the same profile. I mean, you're probably talking about your Mbappe, Messi, and Neymar, those types of players that have the creativity of an attacking midfielder, but the finishing and hold-up play of a forward. And I know some of you might be going crazy in the comments saying, did he just compare Martial to Messi and Mbappe? Let me be clear. He has that level of skill in him. Maybe that doesn't come out as often as those 2 players. And he's been playing under crap managers since he joined United at the age of 19. This is probably his first world-class manager. So he may not be at the level of Messi or Mbappe, but the 60 million that we spent on him definitely did not go down the drain. But the problem that Martial has is that he can't stay fit. Every time he comes into this team, he looks amazing and he does things like he did today, but he can't stay fit. So let's see what happens with Martial. Next, let's talk about the performance of Jadon Sancho, because he definitely didn't have a great game today and we need to talk about this. It has been almost 2 years since we signed Jadon Sancho for £73 million from Borussia Dortmund and made him the second highest paid player at the club, earning £350,000 per week. And let's be brutally honest for a second here. He has not lived up to the standards that we saw from him at Dortmund. For a period of about 2 years, he had the 3rd most assists in Europe behind Lionel Messi and Thomas Muller. And he was scoring and creating goals for fun in Germany. But the guy looks like a complete shell of himself, and we have the perfect clip here to show you guys an example of this. We start with Antony picking up the ball near the center circle, and he's about to play it back to Casemiro. Pay attention to the first time pass that Casemiro plays because it's simply outrageous. As Sancho receives the ball in space, he has Martial in support through the middle and Bruno available for the overlap. So Sancho can either drive the ball into the box himself and potentially take a shot, or use one of these 2 guys as decoys or potential passing options. But as Sancho tends to do all the time, he decides to slow things down and try to cut inside. And Bruno here is still trying to make that overlapping run. So Bruno ends up making that overlap, which Sancho uses as a decoy to get a little bit of space from Nianzou over here, but he doesn't shoot quick enough, which means Bruno's run is a waste, and the shot that he eventually takes from this area gets blocked, and United get absolutely nothing from this chance. What the hell is Jadon Sancho actually doing on a football pitch? I was really excited for the guy when I saw Ten Hag come in and put an arm around his shoulder and give him 3 months off to get back into good physical and mental shape, and he didn't go to the World Cup either. So why is he still putting in stinkers like the game today? And at what point do we stop making excuses and call a spade a spade? I think it's time for Sancho to roll up his sleeves and put in good performances. I'm not even asking for double-digit goals and assists in a season like he was doing at Dortmund. Can he just play the pass before the assist? Can he just make the right decisions that are conducive to United doing the right things in possession? I don't know, guys. I'm getting real frustrated with this guy, mostly because we know what he's capable of. Get in the comments down below. Do you think Jadon Sancho can turn things around, or is he never going to hit the heights that we saw from him at Dortmund? For our final talking point, I want to discuss Aaron Wan-Bissaka and the right back situation at Manchester United. Look, I think everyone here can agree that Dalot was looking like the first choice right back for Erik ten Hag before the World Cup, and even for a brief period after the World Cup till he picked up that injury. We were all pretty sure that Wan-Bissaka was going to be sold in the summer. In fact, Palace were happy to get him back in January itself, but Ten Hag said no. And what an incredible in-season turnaround it has been from Wan-Bissaka. This guy has put in performance after performance after performance when we've needed him the most. And today he was very good as well. Sevilla created almost nothing down his side. All of the threat was coming down Malacia's side, who had a terrible game today. Wan-Bissaka had 78 touches, 83% pass accuracy, 1 successful dribble, 1 chance created, 4 passes into the final third, 2 tackles, 1 interception, 4 clearances, and 7 ball recoveries. He even won 3 out of 3 of his grand duels. And look, I've been saying for a while that Dalot is Ten Hag's preferred first choice right back, and some people in the comments are assuming it means that I think Wan-Bissaka is crap. I'm not saying that at all. They both bring different and unique skill sets to the game, and I'll explain why Dalot is the first choice. Wan-Bissaka is proving to be more press resistance game by game. He's getting more involved in the final third, and his decision making on the ball has also improved a lot under Erik ten Hag. And of course, defensively, he's probably the best one-on-one defender in Europe, but he can't be involved in the first phase of build-up the same way that Dalot can, because Dalot is a much better progressive passer who plays from this area here, joining the back three, which allows someone like Luke Shaw from the other side to get forward and not be involved in the first phase as much. And of course, Dalot has been in bad form since he came back from the injury, so it's very easy for people to say Wan-Bissaka is better, he's our first choice player. But trust me, Dalot offers something different, and in an ideal scenario when Ten Hag has all the players that he wants to, Dalot might be his first choice. So my overall point here is that we have two different right backs in Diogo Dalot and Aaron Wan-Bissaka who can give us different things in different games. If we have a game in which we need to shut down the left winger like someone like a Saint-Maximin or an Mbappe, Wan-Bissaka is your guy. And also in games where we have a lot of possession and we need to do a lot of dribbling to penetrate through the opposition defense, Wan-Bissaka is your guy. In other games when we're potentially under more pressure and we need someone to be in the backline to do a lot of the progressive passing, then maybe Dalot is your guy. So really depending on what style of play that we implement in seasons going forward, Dalot or Wan-Bissaka could both contribute in a positive sense. So I really don't think we need to spend any time or any money this summer to bring in any other right back. Dalot and Wan-Bissaka are really good two options. In closing thoughts, I know it was very disappointing to draw this game, especially because we looked so good in the first half, but it was a terrible defensive mistake from Malacia that led to the first goal, and then we go down to 10 men because of Martinez going off injured, and as much as I love seeing Maguire eat dirt, it was a very unlucky deflection for the second goal, while we were defending with 10 men. Everyone can blame Erik ten Hag for those substitutions as much as they want to, but as a squad, we had enough on the field to protect our 2-goal lead and take the advantage to the second leg. What concerned me more from that game was the fact that both Martinez and Varane are injury concerns, and we already have Luke Shaw and Rashford injured, so for the final stretch of the season, we could be looking at some very important players missing for some very important games. For the second leg especially, Bruno will be missing, which means the midfield will probably be Sabitzer, Casemiro, and Eriksen, and we'll be missing Martinez and Shaw in defense, which means Malacia and Lindelof stepping in. Get in the comments below, do you think we can win this tie next week in Sevilla? I personally have faith in the team and in Ten Hag to get the job done and move into the semifinals. Thank you guys for watching, like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.